This is Plant-Based Briefing, Creatine, Brain Health, and Alzheimer's, the Research Explained, by Dr Ayesah Sherzai at thebraindocs.com. And I'm Marian Erickson, host of this plant-based podcast where I curate a variety of articles on plant-based and vegan living, get permission, and read them to you here in about 10 minutes or less every weekday. And I'm pleased to have permission from Dean and Ayesha Sherzai, the Brain Docs, to share their content. So now let's get to today's plant-based briefing. Creatine, Brain Health, and Alzheimer's, the Research Explained, by Dr Ayesah Sherzai at thebraindocs.com. A new pilot study on creatine and Alzheimer's disease, linked here, has caused a stir in the science, health, and wellness circles of social media, with many viral videos making bold claims like creatine reverses memory loss or creatine reduces the risk of dementia. But what does the science actually show? We reviewed the study, interviewed the researchers, and took a closer look at what creatine actually does in the brain so we can separate hopeful headlines from evidence-based action. What is creatine and what it does to your brain? Every cell in your body needs energy to function. That energy comes in the form of a molecule called ATP, adenosine triphosphate. Think of ATP as your cell's battery. Creatine helps generate ATP through the phosphocreatine system, especially when energy demands spike. When ATP is used up and becomes ADP, think a drained battery, phosphocreatine donates a phosphate group to convert ADP back into ATP. While creatine is best known for supporting muscles, the brain is one of the most energy-hungry organs in the body. Neurons need continuous ATP to fire, communicate, and repair. Hence, the growing interest in the use of creatine as a potential tool for sustaining cognition, memory, and mental processing. How this relates to Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's disease causes brain cells to struggle with processing energy effectively. The energy mainly comes from glucose, which your brain turns into ATP. But in Alzheimer's, the brain can't use glucose properly. This state, called hypometabolism, is one of the earliest and most consistent features seen in Alzheimer's imaging studies. Images from PET scans often reveal decreased glucose used in key regions like the hippocampus and posterior cingulate years before symptoms appear. This energy deficit impairs synaptic function and plasticity, crucial components of memory formation. It's why researchers are exploring metabolic support strategies like creatine to improve neural resilience. What the new study tested. The paper at the heart of the social media discourse, titled Creatine Monohydrate Pilot in Alzheimer's, Feasibility, Brain Creatine, and Cognition, was what's called a pilot feasibility study, meaning it's not designed to test whether creatine works to counter or slow the impacts of Alzheimer's, but whether it's even possible to run a larger trial safely and consistently. The study involved 20 participants with Alzheimer's. They took 20 grams per day of creatine monohydrate for 8 weeks. Researchers tracked compliance and blood and brain creatine levels and tested cognition, measured with MRS, magnetic resonance spectroscopy, and found that MMSE scores, the Mini Mental State Examination, a brief standardized test used to screen for cognitive impairment, did not improve, which is notable, but not surprising given its limitations in detecting short-term changes. This dose is much higher than typical fitness use, which is 3 to 5 grams per day, but that's intentional. Pilot studies often test upper limits to inform future trial designs. Key findings from the study. 19 out of 20 participants tolerated the high dose well. Brain total creatine increased by 11%, measured with MRI spectroscopy, and some cognitive scores like working memory and reading showed small improvements. These are promising signs for a future, more rigorous study. But the social media buzz has caused some confusion and blurred the outcomes of the study. What the study doesn't prove. This study wasn't designed to test whether creatine treats Alzheimer's, slows disease progression, or meaningfully improves quality of life. It had no control group, no placebo, and no blinding, all vital features in determining whether an intervention truly works. As Matthew Taylor, who led the study, told us, we want to say that we found these exciting findings, but we also want to be very cautious about the interpretation of them. So at this point, I don't think I can recommend to a patient that this is going to ultimately have some sort of cognitive influence. I wouldn't want to give those types of indications to anybody. Should you take creatine for brain health? For most healthy adults, creatine is considered safe in moderate doses. It's a popular supplement for enhancing high-intensity workouts, but it's not currently recommended as a treatment for Alzheimer's or memory loss. If you're considering creatine for cognitive health, speak with your healthcare provider, especially if you have existing medical conditions or are taking other supplements. And if you found your way to this article because you were thinking about using creatine to boost your brain health and protect yourself against neurodegenerative disease, fantastic. That kind of curiosity is powerful. But we must all be careful not to extrapolate beyond the data and to always look at the actual research behind the social media headlines. What is proven to protect your brain? While studies on creatine continue, we already have powerful, evidence-backed tools to protect brain health and lower Alzheimer's risk. Regular physical activity, plant-predominant fiber-rich nutrition, quality sleep, mental stimulation, stress management, and social connection. These are all core elements of our NEURO framework, which stands for nutrition, exercise, unwind or balancing stress, restore or sleep, and optimize with cognitively stimulating activities. Creatine may hold promise, but this new study is a pilot, not proof. We're hopeful, we're paying attention, and we'll keep watching the science with both curiosity and caution. You just listened to Creatine, Brain Health, and Alzheimer's, the Research Explained by Dr Ayesah Sherzai at thebraindocs.com, and I'm your host, Marian Erickson. I've done a number of other episodes about brain health, Alzheimer's, cognitive decline, one of those being yesterday. So if you want to see some related episodes or hear some, go to yesterday's show notes, and those will all be linked in there. So please share this episode with anyone who might benefit, and thanks for listening.